Hello and welcome to Mike's Garage. And we are just moving right along now. I want to be sure and say, of course, if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe, and that way you'll be notified every time we come up with a new video. Also be sure you click on the little bell. Have to click on the little bell so that you'll get an audible signal every time we release a new video. So right now, without any further ado, we're going to do a new video now. Okay, moving right along. Last video, we installed the rocker boxes. In fact, I did one. And then when we were done, I did the other one when nobody was looking. But they're both attached, they're on, they're done, and they look pretty nice. Also closed up the push rod tubes, but I put a note here that the valves are not yet adjusted. I will have to adjust those push rods before we fire this motor up in Bobby's motorcycle. And Bobby's going to come and get it and take it home, so let's get her buttoned up. Next thing I'd like to do, what I'd like to do this evening, is I'd like to attach the intake manifold. Now, the intake manifold, it's not a big deal. It's not like it's hard to do. It's just that it's extremely critical. And it's critical from the standpoint that if it isn't mounted exactly right, it'll be a problem. It's a problem to get the carburetor on. It's a problem to get your air cleaner brackets mounted, where your breathers come through your heads on the late style Evos. Whatever the case may be, it's a real pain if you don't get it right. The worst part, of course, is you'll get a vacuum leak. You know, it's easy to tell if you have a vacuum leak. You pull out your spark plugs, you got a dark one and a light one. Believe me, you've got a vacuum leak. 99.9% of the time, it's a leak at the intake manifold. So I'm going to take this seriously, as I normally do, and hopefully that'll help somebody from the pitfalls that do occur. Okay. First off, the new seals are in place. Let's show that seal. It's a tapered seal, and the taper seats into the flange. I might also mention that the flange, this one has an F on it. This one has an R on it. F and R stand for front and rear. This whole thing goes on exactly one way. This is it. This is the way it goes on. This is the F, this is the front end of the motor. So, what I normally do is I put the first pair of bottom bolts in, and the only problem there is you want to get past the washers with the flanges. And then you can put the next pair of bolts in once the manifold is in place. I use dish soap on that seal. And what it does is it makes it glide into place without chafing. That's as good a word as I can use. Without chafing this seal. You don't want to hurt that seal. You'd like it to just slide into place. And I find that that's my favorite way of doing it. And I'm sure other people have their ways. So right now we're going to put it in place, being careful to get those washers up against the heads of the bolts. And there it is. And it's in place. Now, I've had a couple people write in and say things like, well, I used anti-seize on mine. Now they're never difficult to get off. If they aren't difficult to get off, they're going to come loose a little too easy. So my thought is I never ever use anti-seize. I would like these bolts to seize. It's not always a bad thing if they're stuck tight in there. And these do need to be tight. Now this manifold design is pretty good. When Harley first came out with the Evo motor, they had a terrible way of doing the manifold. And I'm not bad-mouthing Harley, they'd bad-mouth it themselves, I'm sure. But then they came out with this design, and it's been working really well ever since, and it's the same design they use on the twin cam. Okay, now moving right along, one of the things I like to do the way to get this thing on straight, like I don't have the carburetor, I don't have the air cleaner, I don't have everything Bobby's going to use, but I have Bobby's manifold going on to Bobby's heads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this absolutely straight up and down. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to take my angle finder and I'm going to lay it on the motor here, get it zeroed. Let's see if I can turn so the cameraman can show the zero. It is zeroed. Now I'm going to set the manifold to exactly the same angle. And that way, and I'll check it a couple more times before I've got it tightened completely. Now, tightening this thing is really not a walk in the park. Sorry about that. It's a good design and I like it, but it's not always easy to install. Now, I'm going to use this long ball end Allen wrench for putting these bolts in here. I had a friend years ago who made custom manifolds for these, and he used 12-point bolts in them. And they were pretty wonderful. But the Allen heads work just fine. And once we get them started here, that's as far as we're going to go that way. Again, we want them really tight. So I'm going to check it again. Make sure I'm real close on that angle finder. This is a wonderful tool. Any hardware store has them for, I think that one cost about $5. Just a nice thing to have. What I've done over the years is I've decided I needed real short Allen wrenches to get in places. And that's pretty easy. You just take an Allen wrench and cut it off. And there's a wonderful tool to put into that bolt. And that's a 1/4 inch. So there's a 1/4 inch wrench to tighten it down with. That makes me pretty happy. That's a little easier than most folks would expect it to be. Now this is also easier because the motor is out of the bike. We have it here on the bench. It's pretty easy to get my hands in here and do this stuff. But to me, it's like seize the opportunity to demonstrate it because everyone can see it that way too. And the way Mike manages to get the camera in there to show you is pretty cool. Okay, let's go around to the front again and see what's going on here. I knocked my dish soap over. Okay. Now we've got this almost tight, and you do it preferably in a crisscross manner. I might also add that when I do finally install a carburetor, oh, that was pretty neat. And there it is now. When I do finally install the carburetor, I put dish soap inside this seal to make it easy for the carburetor to slide in. You tear up that rubber stuff and you don't even know it because the carburetor covers it, so it's a good idea. And the dish soap, of course, dries. Okay, so I'm going to check it one more time. And then I'm going to tighten these down for the last time. Boy, we're right on the money. Yep. Okay, now to tighten these down, some people may laugh at my methods here, but they're my methods and I love them, so there you have it. So I'm going to put this Allen wrench back in here, this little short stubby one. And I'm going to put my 1/4 inch wrench on it. And I'm going to take this here cheater bar, which is a piece of stainless steel thin wall tubing. I'm not way out on the end here, you'll notice. I've just lengthened my wrench a little, and I made it so my hand can grab it. So that worked pretty good. We'll do one there, and then we'll do one over here. We'll crisscross them, and we're done. This manifold will be installed and giving no problems. Well, I need to turn the motor. I try to make it easier to to film, but or video. I guess I'm old, still calling video film. Okay. Now we'll do the other one here in the front. And then we'll do them one more time, and then I'm happy with them. Yep, that one's pretty good. So like I said, we'll make one more round just to make sure. And we're done. Let's see. I think I made the promise that we were going to do a little bit of painting tonight too. So let me just do this. Oh yeah, that one's tight. Beyond belief. And this one is that's where I screwed up. I didn't cinch that one down tight enough. And that's why I keep checking myself. And we'll just check the front one more time. And it's done. Now again, I'm sure everybody has all kinds of methods for doing this. And I'm sure I've tried them all. But this is the way I do them. There we go. And one more on this side, and it's pretty well tightened down. Now, let's see. Now, a long time ago, when I was in business, I had a whole bunch of customers. And I had, as far as I'm concerned, the finest people for customers anyone has ever been fortunate enough to have. And so when I worked on their bikes, there's little things I tried to do for them. They did so many things for me. In fact, my customers actually came in and built my whole shop. So I loved my customers. They were really neat. So I was always trying to think of nice things to do for them. And, you know, somebody would bring their motor in for me to work on, or their bike in, and I'd work on their motor. And I'd look at their motor, and I'd notice the paint was starting to flake off the motor. And that's really a pain. I don't normally do painted motors, but a lot of people do. And this motor, the paint was so bad on the cases that I stripped it all off. I like raw motors, so that's okay. But I'm not selling a brand for a reason here. It's just that Harley actually did a really nice job of painting these motors when they did them. And so what I tried, and it really worked, was Harley's own touch-up paint. And I'd go over a whole motor just to surprise somebody. And this is the paint I use. I'm just gonna paint that in just a little bit with a little brush that comes in the bottle. And if I get a little bit on the fin where I don't want it, it'll come off. About like that. And I'll just kind of put it on and let it set up. I'm trying to do it while I'm being watched. It's not working as well as it would if I wasn't being watched. But there it is. And it's that easy. Now that doesn't look real good right now. But when it dries, I'll hit it again. And I'll hit a few other spots. And when I'm done, this motor will look so clean and nice. And this paint will really last. Because this is the original paint from Harley Davidson, which is the same paint they used on it to begin with. So that's it for now. I don't think I have anything more to add as far as I'm concerned. This motor is done, other than needs to be bolted in, and it needs, I guess, its alternator and its ignition installed and a carburetor. But I'd say it's ready to put in just like this. So I'm going to let Bobby do that. And then he'll probably bring it over and I'll adjust the valves before he starts it up. So if you're watching Bobby, there's your motor. And for anyone else, there's Bobby's motor. So I'm going to do some more touch up on it, and that's about it. And for now, we're done. So next time, I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be something different. Maybe I'll really introduce Baby Doll and we'll look her over good. Anyway, until then, I'll see you out on the road.